Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt. It's Drone Thrust, and I want to talk about how 2025 has been a difficult year for online anti-Scientology because of an arrest in Clearwater around the photograph that I'm using, from Wikipedia for this presentation. If you follow Aaron Smith Levin or growing up in Scientology, you're probably aware of the fact that he was arrested. His first arrest was because he threw chalk at a Sea Org member, and then he got arrested again after he had another incident where supposedly he slammed the door, on the foot of another Scientologist. He now is sitting in jail until his trial. All right, let me put some light on. All right, here we go. Now I have some better light. Yes, and if you've followed, the current news with Scientology, you will you're aware of the fact that Aaron Smith Levin got arrested, and the entire online anti-Scientology movement seems to be fracturing. It seems like a lot of the anti-Scientology influencers are having a feud over Aaron Smith Levin. There's been some success with Streets LA and Jessica Pomadessa. They have grown their YouTube accounts to like over 100,000 followers. The Blown for Good YouTube account seems to be doing well, although I haven't. Yeah, I would definitely suggest. Hey, what's up? Look at the Blown for Good YouTube channel if you want, Scientology updates, because it seems like it's going to be difficult for Aaron Smith Levin to do any Scientology updates, from prison. They were able to live stream a cell phone chat that they had with Aaron over his channel, but you can't really hear him. Yes, so Aaron Smith Levin is in jail. I haven't seen any transcripts from Aaron Smith Levin's arraignment in court, but supposedly the judge is angry at Aaron Smith ASL. The judge kept ASL in prison since he instructed his girlfriend, Jenna Miscavige, to continue the protests outside of Scientology flag, base for which he got arrested after two alleged assaults. We no two alleged battery cases. They weren't assaults. Yes, for those of you who aren't familiar, there's a video that's been seen many times, of Aaron Smith Levin throwing chalk at a Sea Org member, in front of the place, that's the background for my video. He was arrested for that and then got rearrested for a separate assault, a separate alleged battery incident where he might have slammed the door on another Sea Org member's foot. I mean, I would like to see the video of the door incident. I haven't seen it. And again, the judge is keeping him in jail until his trial, which I think is in like December. Um, that's the judge commented during a conversation with Aaron that he has a weird way to make a living. Aaron Smith Levin's YouTube channel is monetized. So he gets paid to live stream his protests in front of, the uh, flag base in Clearwater, Florida. Aaron's problem is that his protests have gotten physical to the point where he's in jail for battery. I definitely think that Scientology protesters, have got to acquaint themselves with, property laws and, assault and battery laws. I defend the right of people to protest, outside of Scientology facilities, provided that they follow the laws and that they're peaceful. I mean, Scientology operates a museum. It's called Psychiatry and Industry of Death. I mean, I'm not sure if it's even still open, but at their museum, they claim that they list their propaganda against psychiatry. If you go to the CCHR Museum in Clearwater or LA, you're going to see that Scientology spends a lot of its effort protesting psychiatry. Um, Scientology clearly thinks that the best way to treat mental health problems is with Dianetics, and they spend a lot. They've picketed psychiatry. There's many. If you look at Scientology, if you could find, if you do a Google image search, you're going to find, lots of images of Scientology protesting psychiatry. So I do not understand why people can't protest, Scientology outside with, live streaming equipment. Despite the fact that I support to the protests, I don't think it's something I would ever do. The Scientology protests often result in attacks on the protesters. If you look at the history of the Scientology protests, you're going to see there was many times wherein there were a few times wherein Aaron Smith Levin got attacked with a dog. It seems like the protesting of Scientology outside of their orgs or Vatican building is becoming increasingly violent. Aaron had a stalker that he had to file a restraining order against. I mean, online anti-Scientology it has become such a huge field that the purveyors of of anti-Scientology are celebrities and targets. There's only like 30,000 Scientologists out there, but they have a big following, and I am well aware of the fact that they don't like their critics. Scientology operates a YouTube handle and Twitter called Vetted Facts, wherein they attack their critics. If you go to Vetted Facts on Twitter, you're going to see Marty Rathbun say attack all of Scientology's critics and blame them for uh, very unfortunate incidents of violence. I mean, the best example he had was someone drove, a car through, a Scientology center in Austria somewhere. I mean, I condemn that. I don't support that. I think it's ridiculous, however, to say that because Scientology receives criticism on Tony Ortega's underground blog, that there's any real threat to Scientology. Um, and any physical threat to Scientology. I mean, I think the criticism of Scientology on the internet has turned a once thriving religion, into a third rail. I, I think that Scientology is an extant political movement, meaning it just exists amongst its fringe. I don't think it can attract high quality celebrities. All right, so what's new with Tom Cruise? He's the leader of the movement. Quite a lot, is new with Tom Cruise. His movie Mission Impossible failed at the box office. I mean, it made a lot of money, but it wasn't profitable. If you spend, 200 mil, if you make 200 million on a movie that cost 250 million to make, you lose $50 million. Yes, Mission Impossible did a lot of revenue, but it seems like it cost more money to make, Mission Impossible than it recuperated in profits. And that says a lot about where Tom Cruise's career is going. Do I have any tips for being a YouTuber? Actually, I don't. I mean, I think you have to find something that you know a lot about, and talk about it. You have to grow your audience and be careful to not get blown up due to copyright strikes, and keep it PG-13. Um, yeah, so Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible ending, failed. I assume it's going to be the last one. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I recommend seeing Tom Cruise's movies because I think he's a great actor. But, the Scientology has always been something I've been extremely critical of him publicly on, because I think it's ridiculous. So, yeah, he flew to a Scientology mecca in Britain. I think that's their Saint Hill estate. And Tom Cruise got in trouble because he flew his helicopter really low to the Saint Hill estate. He flew his helicopter so low that it disturbed people's animals. Yes, if you look up Tom Cruise in the news, you're going to see that he got in big trouble in Britain because he flew his helicopter too low to a Scientology shindig at a palace that they own called Saint Hill. Now, he flew his helicopter there because his friend Nancy Cartwright, who plays Bart Simpson, received her Freedom Medal of Valor award. Yes, that's on Tony Ortega's blog. You'll learn there that, and Nancy Cartwright is a genius. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Nancy Cartwright's work. I'm not really a fan of The Simpsons, but I recognize that, Sabrina Carpenter is Nancy Cartwright's niece, I think, and she said that, oh yeah, Cartwright is a genius, and she's right about that. And Nancy Cartwright has credited a lot of her most of her success to Scientology in a recent in an old interview I saw on Reuters. She said, "Oh, look at me now." She gave a "look at me now" speech about Scientology, dismissing the critics back when the criticism of Scientology was just beginning to ramp up. And yes, she received a Freedom Medal of Valor in the Saint Hill organization in Britain, to which Tom Cruise got in trouble for flying his helicopter too low at. Yeah, and the images of the shindig at the Saint Hill organization can all be found on Tony Ortega's blog spot. On his Substack blog, it's called The Underground Bunker. I found it to be interesting. I mean, they definitely, Scientology definitely, bust people in, in fancy dresses in order to, make it look like things were going better for them than they really are. They haven't released any video footage from the shindig. And I haven't seen Nancy Cartwright's speech. David Miscavige was there. No pictures of Tom Cruise were released from the event. Now it's like I'm sure they take away everybody's cell phones, in the rooms where Tom Cruise is, because he's had so many embarrassing leaks come out about his relationship to Scientology that have hurt his career. I used to post them on this YouTube channel, but I took them down because I didn't want Scientology to file copyright strikes against my channel in case they decided to do that. I care about my YouTube channel, and I don't want to, let Scientology destroy it with copyright strikes. So unfortunately, I had to remove those videos. But there's word on there were rumors swirling around the internet that Scientology may have played a key role in Cruz's breakup with Anna de Aramis. Yes, he was dating. He's like 61, and he was recently seen dating a 37-year-old beauty, Anna de Aramis. They said that she broke up with him because he was too controlling, and he wanted her to join Scientology, according to one tabloid article I saw on the internet. I don't know if it's true. I don't like to talk about people's personal lives, but I find it interesting that Tom Cruise, at the age of 63, is still trying to pressure young Hollywood actresses to join, Scientology. What Cruise should realize is that these Hollywood actresses all have YouTube apps on their phone, and they read about what Scientology is from people like Aaron Smith Levin, Tony Ortega, Claire and Mark Headley. They know all about Xenu and body thetans. I mean, the question what I would say to Tom Cruise is that you should quit Scientology. Stop trying to, encourage young Hollywood actresses like Katie Holmes and Anna de Aramis to join a New Age cult. And that's what Scientology is. It's a New Age religious movement. All of Hubbard's teachings were borrowed from Hindu and Buddhist sources on his trip to Asia. Yes, I'm amazed that Scientology never gets criticized for being a New Age political movement, a New Age religious movement. When in fact it is. So now Danny Masterson, who was thrown in jail, is even complaining that Scientology was part of his trial. He's saying that he should not have been convicted of abuse because of the fact that his trial was linked to Scientology by his own lawyer. Yes, so he wants to get it. He's going to try to do a mistrial, claiming that Scientology corrupted, his ability to have a fair trial. And I think that's completely ridiculous. I mean, but I mean, it does show how Scientology, affects our culture. When you have people who are in jail saying that they got an unfair trial because they're a Scientologist, that says a lot about the success of the anti-Scientology movement. I mean, we have people like me, Aaron Smith Levin, Tony Ortega, have crushed the reputation of Scientology and turned it into a circus. The problem with the online anti-Scientology circus is when somebody like Aaron Smith Levin, with a big audience, does something that embarrasses the rest of the online anti-Scientology community. I respect Aaron Smith Levin, but he's got to stop battering the Sea Org members. I mean, I understand his rage, against Scientology, but flat out, my message to people who are protesting, Scientology on the internet is that you have to be peaceful. Protesting Scientology is not worth going to jail for. Do not trespass and don't hit them. I mean, I guess yes, that is my message for today. And yes, so it appears that and let's talk about Tom Cruise's Oscar award. Tom Cruise received his Oscar Lifetime Achievement Award. It's not an Oscar for any role, but it's an Oscar nonetheless. And I definitely think that Tom deserved the Oscar, despite the fact that he's never won an Oscar for an individual film. Perhaps winning the Oscar for contribution to cinema is actually better than winning a singular Oscar for a single movie. what that award shows is that, Tom Cruise has had a tremendous impact on cinema throughout American movie history. I mean, you have to remember that Tom Cruise dominated the 80s and 90s, and he's continued to stay relevant into the 2000s. Y- you know, we're not going to have another Tom Cruise in my generation, I predict. I definitely think that he has, he's the biggest movie star in the world. Um, Barbara Walters told him, during an interview, yes, that he's the biggest star in the world, and I definitely think that is true. I do not believe that Timothy Chalamet is ever going to be as big as Tom Cruise was. I think that the movie industry is in decline. It's The entertainment industry is being replaced by YouTubers like me. People are less. I think that, well, not like me, like people like Mr. Beast, uh, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye. Yeah, we're all basically becoming new Hollywood. I think social media has had a tremendous negative impact on the movies, and it creates a scenario wherein uh, elite acting talent like Tom Cruise gets replaced by people like me in terms of watch hours. So yes, instead of you know, like Natalie Portman's kid told her that, yeah, oh no, Natalie Portman noticed from her kid that, yeah, the influencers are replacing the movie stars. I think the reason why influencers replace movie stars is because we could tell you exactly what we think about anything, because we don't have to promote movies. I mean, I don't have a monetized channel yet. Watch my videos and get me monetized. But in the future, I think that the elites, I think that the celebrities that get paid the highest amount of funds are going to be YouTubers. And, like Mr. Beast said, humans spend 2% of their time per year on YouTube. And on YouTube, there is a huge anti Scientology community. Uh, the fact that there are so many accounts that criticize Scientology and do live streaming outside of their orgs hurts YouTube. It hurts Scientology. I mean, I'm not sure how good it is for YouTube. I mean, it does, uh, having people live stream protests on YouTube might actually turn YouTube into like a mecca for haters. Like, I'm not sure how much advertisers really want to advertise on channels that criticize a religion. I mean, if I were the chief marketing officer of Disney, I wouldn't want to advertise on my channel because I'm extremely divisive. I'm not Bob Hope. I'm not what Taylor Swift is trying to be. I'm trying to talk about issues in America that are extremely controversial and lead to, a lot of people's feelings being hurt. And obviously, one of them is Scientology and religion. YouTube has a large community of people that talk about religion, and often when people talk about their faiths, a lot of divisive issues come up. Like, look at the Israeli-Palestinian issue. Yes, there are lots of channels that talk about the Palestinian-Israeli issue, and if you look at the comments in the boxes of those channels, you're going to see that a lot of hateful words are exchanged. And I think that that leads to all YouTubers receiving less money since YouTube becomes a mecca for the culture wars in America. And I would repeat, obviously, a company like Disney or Procter and Gamble and IBM probably don't want their ads on a channel like mine or Aaron Smith Levin just because we're being divisive and nasty intentionally. But I think that provided that you're nonviolent, it's okay to be divisive and mean spirited. Maybe not mean spirited, but let's say acerbic. Yeah, yes. So, what are good? Yeah, a good way to study how the online anti-Scientology community evolved is to use the Wayback Machine on archive.org. Um, One website that has been canceled by Scientology is called Scientology.info. And if you look on Scientology.info through the Wayback Machine, you're going to see that even back 20 years ago, the online anti-Scientology community had a huge voice and it was growing. It grew because of what Tom Cruise said on the Today Show with Matt Lauer. Now, Tom Cruise doesn't talk about Scientology at all. If you look at Tom Cruise's Oscar acceptance speech, you're going to notice that Tom Cruise did not mention the word Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard once, despite the fact that Tom Cruise credits the teachings of Hubbard with saving his life. I mean, Tom Cruise gave a speech a long while back wherein he claimed that study technology helped him get his pilot's license. You know, he said that when he received an award for from Paul Newman, yeah, he stated that that was at the point where he insisted that the study technology and enabled him to become a pilot when nothing else helped him. And you know, maybe that's I don't think that's true, really. I don't I've never seen any evidence that study technology helps people become more intelligent. I I haven't seen evidence that study technology is used in a university setting and helps people in universities, you know, conquer subjects that they don't understand, like calculus. And the psychological establishment has always rejected all Scientology teachings that Tom Cruise promoted, from study technology to CCHR, to the toxic rundown program that Tom Cruise recommended for the 9/11 firefighters. Yes, so Tom Cruise is a 62-year-old celebrity with a complex legacy. He's done, he's achieved a lot cinematically, but where I think Tom Cruise has failed is, you know, in his personal relationships. And I think one of the main reason why, you know, Cruz failed in his personal relationships is because he belongs to a controversial religion that preaches a divisive message that has hurt him probably more than it has helped him. So yes, back to Aaron Smith Levin. Yeah, he's in jail. Jessica Palmadessa and Streets LA are actively protesting Scientology on his channel. If you look at Streets LA, you're going to notice that he tries to find where Scientologists are going to set up pop-up centers. And I noticed that Streets LA claimed that Scientology was recruiting at Comic-Con now. Yes, that's a tactic that Scientology is using. They're doing pop-up centers at places where they think they could find a younger audience, and a good place for them to do that is at Comic-Con, obviously. Um, I would definitely say to people who are, you know, attending Comic-Con, do not let Scientology provide you with a personality test. Their personality tests are known for being completely useless. Yeah, according to Streets LA, what Scientology is doing is they're trying to hype up Dianetics. Grant Cardone's wife, Elena Cardone, I think that's her name, was seen promoting Dianetics somewhere. It's a book with a volcano on it. I would recommend staying away from that book, because the prescriptions that book offers for life are known for being fraudulent. It's widely known that L. Ron Hubbard, was an international con man that swindled $1 billion from, a multi-level marketing scheme. There's uh, there's really nothing nice I could say about L. Ron Hubbard. I really think he was, a horrible person. But, despite the fact that I don't like Hubbard, I would say there are nice things I could say about, like, Tom Cruise, John Travolta. Yeah, they're amazing artists whose on-screen performances have eclipsed their Scientology buffoonery. And yes, as we speak, Aaron Smith Levin is sitting in jail, and I regret that. I think Aaron Smith Levin has been an online trailblazer. I admire the way he promoted the David Miscavige interview from ABC. I think that the best content you could see on Aaron Smith Levin's channel is the full David Miscavige interview in its entirety. I recommend you look at that, because that's going to give the Scientologists an opportunity to express their views. And you're going to see that they make a series of, fraudulent arguments that are easy to rebut. The interview was given, I think, back in 1996, so it's an old interview, but I would definitely recommend looking at Aaron Smith Levin's channel, in order to see that. I do worry about Aaron having to do jail time. I think he might go to jail for like a year for what he did. The one possible issue that can aggravate Aaron Smith, Levin's jail sentence, is that he can be tried for hate crimes. Yes, a hate crime, a biased crime, carries more jail time than a non-biased crime. Scientology might be able to claim that ASL attacks Scientologists because he doesn't like him, and therefore should spend even more time in jail than a year, because he actually committed a hate crime. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not familiar with hate crimes statutes, but they are something that you have to be aware of if you're protesting Scientology. Um, and my advice for Scientology protesters is that you might be better off just keeping it on YouTube, like I do. I don't think I would ever go to a Scientology org and start yelling at the people entering. I'm not sure what good that does. I think that I would be worried that I could get assaulted. I mean, I wouldn't want to get my two a black eye and a bloody nose, in order to protest fools that want to follow L. Ron Hubbard's nonsense. I think that's it seems like an activity that involves more risk than it's actually worth. But I would encourage people to try to attend a Tom Cruise movie premiere and blindside him with a question about Xenu. I don't understand why Tom Cruise doesn't have to face questions about Scientology in public. He's said many different things about it throughout his career, and I definitely believe that he should get asked about it when his guard is down by a fan when he's signing autographs. I think that would create a great viral moment. But I would definitely say be peaceful about it. I be peaceful about it. There's never a reason to go to jail for an assault, a battery charge, like Aaron Smith Levin did. I think Aaron Smith Levin has an anger control problem, and needs some mental health counseling. He spent a lot of time in Scientology, and I think that Scientology might have hurt him, by giving him by keeping him in counseling courses that are pseudoscientific in nature. In other news, Lisa Marie Presley left Scientology. She's not saying why, but she's no longer in Scientology. I mean, she might be lying. A lot of celebrities don't want to be associated with it, like Beck, and they claim that they're not in it or that they left it, but it turns out that they are. So I'm not sure I would believe that Lisa left. Yeah, so poor Aaron Smith Levin. I mean, I just feel, I feel bad for, Aaron Smith Levin because I think that he is going to go to jail for a year. I mean, I unfortunately, you can spend a long time in jail if you batter someone on the street. So, like a battery, I think it's like less than an assault charge. Like a battery would be if I took this, you know, thing of disinfectant and I threw it at your head and it bounced off your head and hit someone else, you both could say I battered you. That's a lot different than an assault. I mean, I think the definition of an assault would be like if I beat somebody repeatedly with a shoe and I really injured them. Yeah, I'm just not sure how much a double battery charge is going to cause Aaron Smith Levin to spend time in jail. What I think can aggravate our ASL's jail sentence is that he's publicly stated on his YouTube channel that he's going to double down on his protesting. I mean, the advice I think that you should send to Aaron Smith Levin is that he should never protest Scientology outside of their buildings again. I definitely believe that he should de-escalate. And the advice I would give to him is to just say you're sorry and that you're not going to do it again. I think he should plea bargain. The evidence does seem to show that he is guilty of at least one assault or one battery charge from the chalking incident, and I would predict that he might be guilty of the second door slamming charge. If he wants to get out of jail and maintain his YouTube channel, what I would say to him is that he should just quit protesting outside of Scientology and try to find other, content to talk about on YouTube in addition to his, anti-Scientology activism. ASL has a lot of charisma. He's a lot better spoken than I am. I mean, a big problem I have on my YouTube channel is that I'm not a good public speaker. I often, I'm just not as articulate as someone like an ASL, and it shows in my presentation. But it's important that you do not attack people and get thrown in jail in order to get hits on YouTube because it's not worth it. I mean, first of all, YouTube could ban his channel. That they could say that he's crossed the line, which I think he did. And I think that also Scientology can sue him in civil court. Scientology might bankrupt Aaron Smith Levin with attorney's fees. I'm sure that Scientology is keeping a record of the amount of money they're spending on attorney's fees dealing with the two battery charges and are going to force, Aaron to pay their attorney's fees out of his bank through bankruptcy. I think they're going to go. I mean, Aaron has got to be careful that Scientology doesn't put a garnish on all of the money he makes from YouTube. The funny thing is that Scientology might make money off of all of the revenue Aaron Smith ASL makes on YouTube. And I think they'll bankrupt him and force somebody to, fund him. to fund his SPTV operation. Um, Another problem that our ASL has is that when you do the outside protests, it sends a message to people who are in Scientology that they should stay in, because they're an oppressed minority. Um, when you yell at somebody who's entering, when you yell at a devout Scientologist who's entering their so-called church, that sends the message to them that they're doing the right thing, and the critics of the religion are all just a bunch of bigots. Aaron once made that point on his channel. He said that the protesting on the outside sends negative messages to people on the inside that they're fighting a good fight against evil bullies that want to hurt them. I mean, in fact, the more I think about it, I would call on there to be a complete, moratorium on protesting Scientology outside of their buildings. I just don't understand what good it can do. I think that the best solution might be for anti-Scientologists to create blogs and YouTube channels. I don't think that the way to convince people to leave Scientology is through outside protesting. The more I think about it, I mean, it's like you know, I've posted my first anti-Scientology video like years ago, and it amazes me the extent to which online anti-Scientology has blown up because of Aaron Smith Levin. I think YouTube does amplify extreme opinion. I think that the more extreme you are politically on YouTube, the more views you get. The problem, I think that's the nature of social media. When you see a lot of politicians complaining about social media from both sides, they say it promotes hate. I think that's true. During the first Trump administration, you saw social media companies, issue an unprecedented amount of hate speech bans. They did this, I think, because their advertisers, started to pull out once they saw the types of content that was really being uploaded onto YouTube. YouTube now restricts. It's easy to get demonetized on YouTube if you talk about unsavory topics. There's one old channel with like 3 million followers called Top 5S that is having, and they have a good anti-Scientology video about Shelley Miscavige. Yes, the top 5S is complaining that YouTube is demonetizing videos that they post because the content is just too unsavory. I mean, they understand that they're saying that YouTube should monetize videos that deal with very unwholesome topics, shall we say, like hackers and mafia kingpins. Yes, so there is a problem wherein I predict that YouTube might demonetize Aaron's channel in the future. I just think that the hate speech laws are going. I think that the hate speech laws on YouTube might prevent anti-Scientology channels from getting big. Because Aaron threw the truck at the Sea Org guy. I think that YouTube might shadow. I think YouTube is going to shadow ban a lot of anti-Scientology channels because I think that they don't like they won't like in the future how people are growing a social media fan base through criticizing our religion. But I'm torn on this issue of protesting outside of Scientology. There's another organization that I think that deserves protesting called the Jehovah Witnesses. The Jehovah Witnesses often, portray themselves as, victims of discrimination. And yes, throughout history, they have been. I don't support denying them opportunities or any type of hate crimes against them. But I think people should protest out of Watchtower Society buildings like they do outside of the Scientology buildings because their organization is a cult that hurts people. Their laws against blood transfusions have killed many different people. Uh, the Watchtower Society tells people not to get an education. It's similar to Scientology insofar it was founded by it's a thoroughly American religion that was founded by a pastor in Pennsylvania who had a controversial interpretation of the Bible, shall we say. I definitely would support protesting the Watchtower Society everywhere they pop up. But despite the fact that they're nice people, I think nice people, perhaps nice people are susceptible to getting, suckered into joining a cult. Cults provide people who are at their wits' end with a means of, dealing with their problems by giving them a pie in the sky solution. And what the Watchtower Society and Scientology do is tell people that, the whole world is against them and they're fighting a good fight. Their message is that, don't believe them. What cults do is say that we have the truth and the rest of the world is in darkness. I mean, it really seems to me like the way to promote, rationality and reason, is to make it so that people don't join organizations like Scientology in the first place. And I mean, I just wish that Scientology was forced to sell their building, like as the Watchtower Society had to do in New York. The Watchtower Society had to sell billions of real estate in New York City because they just couldn't afford them anymore. I would really hope that Scientology becomes so unpopular that they're not able to maintain their base in Florida. I would if I mean, imagine how much tax revenue Florida could generate if Scientology were forced to sell their flag land base building. I mean, that building could be a casino. It could generate millions of dollars in revenue for Clearwater. But because it's a religion, it pays no property taxes whatsoever. Yes, Scientology owns a palace in Clearwater for which it pays no property taxes. They're more concerned about, jailing a protester, ASL, than paying anything back to the city that has so graciously gifted them $1 billion in real estate. If you look at Aaron Smith Levin's videos, you're going to notice the disastrous effect that Scientology has had on Clearwater. Clearwater should be a thriving mecca, but instead it's just it houses a New Age cult that was fabricated by a 1950s con man by the name of L. Ron Hubbard. Now, there is controversy in how to protest this cult. I would highly recommend against attacking Sea Org members the way Aaron Smith Levin has, because he's in jail. If you want to protest Scientology, the key to being a good protester is don't let them jail you. It's not worth going to jail for. Scientology is going to see its memberships decline over the next decade, and I think they will eventually have to sell their building, in Clearwater. I think that would be a great day because it would free up a lot in tax revenue for a city that needs it. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning into this broadcast. Please feel free to subscribe and watch my